Well, we've finished discussing the 12th place team, and boys, it's time to move back up the table. Tonight, we are talking about 4th place Newcastle. Joel, welcome back. This is Red Card Radio. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're listening from. Thanks for tuning in. Red Card Radio is a weekly look at the Premier League from normally three friends who support different clubs, but tonight we are joined by none other than Joel. He is our resident Newcastle expert, the aficionado of all things on the Tyne. So, welcome. Hello. How are you?
Hello. Doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me back. I love the knowledge about on the Tyne as well. That's always cool to hear.
Yeah. That's what we're here for. We're here to drop knowledge bombs at Red Card Radio. Geography and things like that are our that's the pinnacle of our knowledge. We're very good at all things geographical.
We may be on the time, but we are definitely not on time.
Yeah. Well, wow. But it depends on when you're listening to this. If you're listening to this at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, then you're on time. But yeah, we may have taken a couple minutes to get started and might have had a few technical snafus on our end before. But you guys, you're getting the fully polished rendition of this week's podcast. So if you're enjoying that,
absolutely nothing that our IT intern can't handle.
Yeah, we'll just we're probably paying him too much for all the mistakes he's made tonight,
which is zero.
Yeah. All right. If you guys enjoy Red Card Radio, if you just stumbled across us, please hit that subscribe button, ring the sub notification bell, drop a follow if you're on one of the audio sites, leave a comment on YouTube, and we will get to it in the next week's episode. We didn't have any comments from last week, but that's okay. So we're just going to dive right in. So if you guys have been following along for the last couple of weeks, we're just going through teams. And so we start with Arsenal, we did Tottenham and then Chelsea last week, and we decided, let's get outside of the normal Red Card Radio bubble and let's get Joel back in here, and he can kind of he'll break down Newcastle with us, kind of look at their season last year, talk about transfers, things like that, and then kind of expectations for next year. So Sean, why don't you kick it off for us? Bring us in.
Joel.
Yes, sir.
I have the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and I take you exactly 12 months ago, and I tell you that top half from your start last season or the season prior is not good. Or you started the way you did, and then you finished top half or right there at it. Top half's not good enough. We're finishing 4th next year. What say you?
I don't think any Newcastle fan thought 4th could be possible, nor I don't think any Newcastle fan expected it. I think 12 months ago, there was a lot of outside noise of, Newcastle have the Saudi money, they're going to be, in the European places. But I think most level-headed fans were, I think, top half finish would have been, that's okay. Like, if we finish 9th, 8th, like, cool, that's progression. Like, we finish, I think it was 11th or 12th the season before. So I think a top half finish was priority. Maybe a late season push for Conference League, like that position, 7th. But top 4, I don't think anyone dreamed of top 4 and a cup final.
That was gonna be my question, because it was top 4 and a cup final. Like when you talk about like expectations going into the year, like that was your first trip to Wembley in
since 1996 or something like that.
Quite a long time. So like that's a great season for Newcastle. I mean,
it was astounding. Yeah, I mean, Wembley Cup final and European football, and it's the peak of European football. Champions League is a dream season. So I mean, a trophy, getting to the cup final, losing, disappointing, but just the fact we got to a final was like, this is amazing. The Newcastle are back. That was the moment we're like, right, we're back. So
I was also interested to hear your feelings throughout the season, because I believe the first time we had you on, I had pointed out and made the point that you had drawn 8 straight games or something along those lines, where the beginning of the season was a lot of draws that were just keeping you in the top half, and then the wins started coming, and then you made the cup final, and then like so it was a season of progressively inclining. So how were your feelings throughout the season, through the draws, through the wins, through the cup finals?
Well, I think in the first half of the season, Newcastle went on a run of not losing for a crazy number of games. I think it was between at least 10 games. I think it was 10 games we didn't concede in, 10 straight games. We weren't we weren't like scoring freely, but we weren't conceding and we weren't losing. And so it was encouraging for once to see Newcastle disciplined at the back and keeping clean sheets, which is something, I mean, in the last 10 years, Newcastle don't keep clean sheets.
I mean, you guys had, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm going to pull it up right now, but you guys had the best defense for the entire season, right? You guys had the best defensive record last year?
I think that slipped away towards the end of the season. We couldn't keep a clean sheet towards the end of the season. I think Edison overtook Pope for. Do you mean in terms of fewest goals conceded?
Yeah, you guys were tied for fewest goals conceded last year.
Oh, fewest goals. Sorry, I thought you meant clean sheets. I'm sorry.
No, clean sheets was De Gea. De Gea went on a tear there.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys were tied for best defensive record in terms of goals conceded.
Tied with Arsenal?
No, with City.
Oh, with Edison. Okay. So which is like, that's an amazing achievement in itself. I mean, at one point, like I said, I think we've gone 10 games without conceding in all competitions.
Yeah.
Which was flipping amazing. So I think even at the start of the season, we started pretty well. We only lost one game, which was away at Liverpool to a 97th minute winner. And so we were hard to beat. And that was the encouraging thing. We may not have been winning every game, but we were hard to beat. So it was encouraging right away. And I think that kind of first, before the World Cup, let's say, that first, but when the World Cup came, we were already in and around those European places. So it's like, wow, we're setting ourselves up really well. With a decent January window, who knows where we could go. So yeah, it was started the season really well. It was very encouraging.
What would you say about for a specific moment or like a player that you would say who was your player of the year for Newcastle last year?
Player of the year. There's a few to choose from, but
and tell me why it's Joe Willock.
It's not Joe Willock. I'd say Joe Willock's probably an unsung hero in a way. He and Sean Longstaff in the middle, but. No, Joe Willock, he's a great player. But my player of the season is probably Kieran Trippier, our captain, for his leadership, his experience in fighting for those top places, which he did with Spurs once. He did it. He did it in Spain with Atletico. He won the league there. But Kieran Trippier, I mean, he scored some important goals. Getting assists, he was just in terms of leadership, that's why he's player of the season. I mean, noticeable mention Bruno Guimaraes in the middle, just world class, like unreal player. Joe Linton as well, just a marauder in the midfield, box to box, tackles, getting goals, assists, like unbelievable season as well.
Botman.
Those are my two.
At the back, yeah.
Those are my two.
But
Bruno and
I think in terms of consistency though, like, you're guaranteed a solid performance every game. Kieran Trippier, yeah.
That's interesting, because that's also why I wasn't entirely upset that we let Kyle Walker go to Man City when we got it was $50-something million. We got fair value for a player, but we also had Kieran Trippier behind. I wasn't worried about losing him, and then we lost him. So our misfortune is your good luck. So you got a really great player.
Don't forget, Newcastle spent $12 million on getting him, which is, for that type of player, that caliber, that experience, best money you can probably spend.
Yeah, that was a really, really, really strong buy. Moment of the year, sir. What set it off for you? I think I know the answer to this.
Before you answer
moments-
this, did you like my answer to the moment of the year, which was
Remind me, Sean.
realizing the season was over when you guys drummed
Oh.
us for 7.
Yeah, no, that was a special. That's special.
I
No,
don't
this-
think that's it though.
No, I mean, so there's a few moments. It's reaching Wembley, getting to Wembley. So
Yep.
both the semi-final against Southampton, and then the final itself. I know, again, lost, but just getting there, that was a moment. Spurs 6-1. I mean, those 21 minutes, scoring 5 goals. That was unbelievable. I don't think I'll see that again.
It
Or
was
Newcastle
it was
fans.
insane.
It was like, I think I remember the commentator saying it was like the changing of the guards. Like Newcastle now taking their place in the top 6, and Spurs like get out of the way type of thing. It was like, because it was just we killed them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Man United at home 2-0. That was special because it was battling for the top 4, and they beat us in the cup final. So it was nice to get one up on them. And then actually, one other moment that stands out is beating Brighton at home 4-1, because that was a real. That was towards. I think that was our second to last home game of the season, and winning that meant that if we didn't lose at home to Leicester, we got Champions League. And
Yeah.
so beating Brighton at home was a big one. But in terms of a moment, I'm actually going to surprise you. I'm going to go 6-1 at home to Spurs.
Wow. I really thought it'd be the final.
I was
That's
thinking
that was my.
that's what I thought too, Brad. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
it kind of falls down a little bit because of the fact that you guys lost.
Loss.
It was. I would. Yeah. I think
And smashing Tottenham is always fun.
it wasn't the best performance in the final. Man United played well. But the build up to the final was really special. That was fun. Like to see it all, and the journey getting there, beating Southampton in the semis was cool.
It's fun to hear your side, like with a chance to think back upon it and retrospect and all things included. It's fun to hear your side of it, because my side, when I picked that was the moment it almost felt like I could relax, of like, okay, this season's over. It was like, okay, we are not good. That was a moment where we were close enough to you guys that we could catch you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we had won that game.
That was a nail in your coffin.
That was the nail in the coffin of, all right, this is over.
I remember feeling very nervous about that game. I really didn't know where it was going to go. And 20 minutes later, or 21 minutes later, we're 5-0 up. And it's just like, I mean, I don't think that's happened once before in the Premier League, and that was Man City v Watford, like top v bottom. But this is top Champions League contenders against each other, and there's 5 goals in 21 minutes. It's just, you won't see it again.
No.
That's probably why.
All right. Joel, before I get to you on this one, I got to ask the guys something. What do you guys think Alan St. Maximin's value is this transfer window? If he is to leave Newcastle, how much would you expect a club to come in for on an offer for him?
62 million.
Okay.
I would peg it at like 35, something like that, 35 million pounds.
Yeah, like I think 35-40 million is fair. Apparently, he is moving to another PIF team for 22 million pounds. This reeks of fraud, of inboarding, of cooking the books. And this transfer should be stopped.
So time out.
I know you are not the one bringing this to the forefront.
No, see, the problem is
I am 100% bringing this to the forefront.
But the problem is, this is not the L that Brad thinks it is, because it's a cell phone.
It's not.
It's a cell phone that he's doing right here, because he's trying to say that we were giving Brad a hard time because Clear Lake has investments from the Saudi investment, the Public Investment Fund, or whatever it's called. So from PIF, Clear Lake, who is a principal owner at Chelsea. It's Todd Bowley's company. Okay, so Brad, we were giving Brad a hard time because now the Saudi Arabian clubs are coming in and buying a bunch of Chelsea players. It turns out that they've paid, I guess, relatively fair prices for some of them. I don't think it's been outrageous for any of them. But it was a little weird. But the difference is, Brad, Newcastle isn't getting an inflated purchase price for Alan St. Maxim. They're getting a
Right.
deflated price. So it's not like you're concerned that the Saudi club is cooking the books for themselves, not that Newcastle, your direct rival in the league, is getting like a financial fair play boon here. Now, if Alan St. Maxim was going to the Saudi club for £100 million or something like that, like 100 million euros, then I think your concern is valid. This doesn't help Newcastle right the ship for financial fair play in any way if he goes for less than his value.
If it goes one way, it can go the other way. So you can have 4 clubs feeding 1 club.
What are you concerned about here, Brad?
All right, so look, if you're gonna, so I'm assuming ASM's book, it shouldn't be 22 mil unless because you guys didn't pay that much for it. But let's assume that his book value is 22 mil, right? You have 4 clubs in Saudi that have just bought every European star that's wanted a big paycheck.
So
right?
are you concerned that those clubs will buy players and then loan them or sell them to Newcastle?
Yes.
It's not
Okay.
going to happen.
Well, this is you are getting ahead of the argument here because that's not happened. It's not happening here, and it's what you're describing in the Alan St. Maxim potential transfer does not portend what you're claiming it might. You're worried about something that doesn't exist right now. And on top of that, then I need you to decry the City Football Group. I need you to decry the fact that Chelsea you need to decry Red Bull, the Red Bull Football Group. You need to decry the fact that Chelsea just bought an ownership stake in a French team. So if you're gonna have concerns with the fact that PIF owns the Saudi Arabian clubs, yeah, you've got a bigger fish to fry than just Newcastle here.
I hear. Yes, I agree.
Brad.
I don't like these multi groups. Like I don't, and I get why Chelsea's doing it, but like I don't like it.
If you guys could
Brad,
see our text messages,
What?
You,
You've been so excited about the fact that Chelsea just bought Salzburg. You've been hyping up
it
this.
was Freiburg. It was Freiburg.
No.
It was
Strasbourg.
Because you have
Brad,
to now. Because
Brad,
you
you
can't. If a club like Brighton owns 2 teams, if a club like Brentford owns 2 teams, you have to have that.
Brad, you are Don
I
Quixote.
don't have to like it.
You are Don Quixote fighting windmills. If you were also a windmill, just imagine Don Quixote, but Don Quixote is also a windmill.
We are off the rails here, so we need to get back on track and talk about Newcastle here. But this is a different conversation for a different time. But Brad, before we have that conversation, I think you need to really think out your argument, because if this is your argument again, my head is going to explode again. So. But
it probably will stay the same then.
Get us back on track, Brad.
All right. So Joel, what do you think ASM is worth? Is he worth that 22 mil, or do you think he's worth more?
Here we go.
If he's sold to a club not in the Premier League,
yeah,
I'd say between 30 and 40. Yeah, if Spurs or Arsenal or Chelsea were trying to buy him, I think Newcastle would ask for a little bit more money because they're coming from a rival. But if Newcastle sold him to Saudi for 30 million, I think Newcastle fans are going to be sad regardless of who he goes to. But I think 30 million is a fair price. I mean, he's very talented. He's very inconsistent.
If the Saudis have 30 million for Alan St. Maxim, they've got 25 million for Nicola Pepe. I'm just saying.
Bro, and they got 40 mil for Mitrovic.
If it's 22 million, I haven't seen that figure, but you've seen it somewhere. If it's 22 million, that's I'd say that's on the low end for him.
Yeah.
I think Newcastle can get more than that, but they clearly aren't. It's clear that he wants to leave, or maybe he wants to leave, and if they're not going to stand in his way by rejecting bids, I think they're going to respect. He's been a good servant for Newcastle. Oh. Newcastle fans love him. He probably kept his up in the Bruce era.
If you think it's fair, then cool, fine.
What if you think it's fair that a club bids for him and Newcastle accept the bid?
I don't. I think 22 mil is way short of his value. So I don't know why you would accept the bid unless it's the same owners.
Let me
I
tell you
mean,
what a value is. A value is what someone is willing to pay for
yes.
it.
I mean, Brad, Chelsea spent 100 million on Enzo Fernandez. I think that's ridiculous.
Agreed.
I mean, uh, it just there's some player. Newcastle bought Trippier for 12 million. Where's all the like Trippier's worth well more than that.
Yeah, that was my exact point with Kieran Trippier and
Okay.
Alex Maxim and Enzo and Declan Rice. I don't believe the latter two are worth 100 million, but that was the value that they provided to those teams. Arsenal thought Declan Rice was $100 million player. Chelsea thought that Enzo was $100 million player. At the time, that was worth it.
Okay. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong.
That's
I
the
don't
value
say
of a
that I'm
player
wrong,
at the
but I
time.
don't.
I think that it seems you seem hyper fixated on the fact that Saudi Arabia also owns the destination, and they own like the public investment fund owns Newcastle and owns the destination, but it's not like Newcastle's getting pumped up here.
Well, and
Newcastle's
also you said that you're concerned about Newcastle getting players loaned to them. Like that's not happening. Benzema and Kante and Ronaldo and Ruben Neves, they're not joining Newcastle on loan, nor are they going to. Like, that's not going to happen. Just because PIF owns those 4 Saudi clubs doesn't mean every player is going to Newcastle. Because I haven't seen any link anywhere, and I don't think it's going to happen.
yeah. So
Okay.
what about other potential transfers?
Let's
Let's
see what other transfers. So you got if you got him going out, who's coming in? What are you interested in? Let's see, interested in out.
Well, if Sam Maximan goes, we need another winger. We need another winger, even if he stays. So that's why I have to think he only leaves if Newcastle have something lined up. And the name that's been linked is Harvey Barnes from Leicester. He's been linked with Newcastle for a while now. I think I've seen so many different figures, so I don't know what the figure is: 30, 40, 25, who knows? But Harvey Barnes has been the name thrown around a lot, and I'd be happy with Harvey Barnes.
I think Arsenal have also been linked to Harvey Barnes at some point this summer. So like, it seems like either his agent is trying to get him out of Leicester, or there's actually like legitimate interest in him from the other clubs.
Yeah, I think he'll leave. I don't think he's a championship player.
Agreed.
So he'll be in the Premier League next season. Hopefully at Newcastle. I'd love him there. I think he's a good, fast. I think he got 10 goals last season, so something like that, which is a good return for a winger.
I think he was kind of carrying Leicester for a little while there.
Yeah.
So I'd be happy. If you offered right now, get rid of Sam Maximan and get Harvey Barnes in, I'd probably say keep Sam Maximan. But that's because I have a place in my heart for him. I think all Newcastle fans do, because during the Bruce era, he was the only good thing.
The Tottenham number for Harvey Barnes was 40 million. I think if you get 40 million and have Harvey Barnes as your fourth option in the front 3, then I think you're happy with that.
Yeah, I don't know that he would start. I think is he left or right footed? I think he's a right-footed winger, but I think he's right-footed. But yeah, he would slot right into that position on the left wing. So I think maybe I don't know. It's going to be interesting because he's a good player, but does he start every game? Is he a sub player? Is he a League Cup player? I don't know. I really don't know.
He is. I think he's an important. Like, I think he probably comes off the bench a lot. He probably doesn't start, but I think he plays in most Premier League matches. So
good depth to have for sure.
But you guys have signed Tonali from AC Milan. That's a big transfer. That was like 70 million pounds or something like that.
70, I think is the figure. So that's an epic signing.
That's a huge signing from Newcastle. Like,
I'll be honest.
Think about 5 years ago and Mike Ashley. Think about Mike Ashley thinking about spending 70 million pounds. There's no way Mike Ashley would have ever thought about that.
No. I mean, I'll be honest. I didn't know anything about him until before. If you said who's Sandro Tonali, but I've seen him on YouTube now, like most Newcastle fans would have done after they were linked to him, and he looks epic.
Yeah, he's a player. Yeah, he's a player. That's a good signing. The question for me is how is he going to adapt to life in England? Is he going to enjoy the North the northeast of England. Like,
Yeah, I mean, if someone like Bruno Guimaraes can adapt, coming from, I mean, he's Brazilian, coming from France, because they signed him from Lyon. I think Sandro Tonali can adapt. He's
you would hope
young.
so.
He'll learn the language. I think his wife or his girlfriend, fiance, I'm not sure, speaks fluent English, so I think that will help.
There was a funny video on Twitter where his partner looked at him and they were talking about the Newcastle gym, like the training facility.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, it's bigger than in Milan. And he's like, no, it's smaller. But they're
Yeah,
speaking in Italian, and it's just really funny.
No, I've seen so many different like official translations of that, and I have no idea obviously which is true.
But
Like, I don't know.
He's got a face that doesn't scream, like he's just, it seems like he's always very stone cold, and like he's very stern, and so he just always looks upset. And so like there's videos of him coming into training and he just looks upset, and you're like, man, does this guy actually want to be in Newcastle? But he's gonna be a player for you guys.
But then you'd look at pictures of him in Milan as well. It's the same thing.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited about him. He's going to be I think Bruno, and Joe Linton in midfield. That's going to be good.
Okay. Any players that might go out other than Alan St. Maxim that you know of off the top of your head?
I think there's players that do need to be moved along, like Ryan Fraser, for example. He's a player that probably needs to move along. I saw Matt Ritchie signed a new 1-year extension, which is surprising. He was a player that helped Newcastle get out the Championship back in 2017, and he's still there. But there's some players that the time's probably up. Ryan Fraser's the first one that comes to mind. Matty Longstaff, the Longstaff brother, he just got released.
Yeah.
I think they need to get some players off their wage bill. But there's certain players like Matt Ritchie, like Paul Dummett, who have been there so long that they're not going to play. But I think they're just good. I think them being around the club and the dressing room, especially Matt Ritchie, is very valuable.
It's the Rob Holding at Arsenal, like just someone who is good vibes in the locker room, knows their role on the team, understands that they're fifth choice and only showing up if there's injuries and things like that. But they're happy to be there. They enjoy their life and they enjoy training and things like that. So.
I mean, they signed a 1-year extension for Loris Karius as well, which I thought was funny. But I guess he's good to have around. Whatever. Maybe he'll play the next cup final as well.
You're pretty happy with Eddie Howe, right? You're like, no notes on Eddie Howe, right?
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't change him for anyone right now. Seriously, yeah.
Okay.
Cool. And,
Why would we?
I'm guessing Pope is still your starter.
Pope, happy with him. I think the only concern is the depth behind him, the standard of those goalkeepers, like Loris Karius.
Dubravka, like who is it?
Dubravka, I don't think he's European football standard.
Carl Darlow.
Carl Darlow, he's been there a long time, and you've got Keith Gillespie as well. Who is it? Keith Gillespie or Mark Gillespie?
I don't see him on the list.
Gillespie, he's a goalie that we have. He may be loaned out, but there's a lot of goalies but Pope is way clear of them, and it's quite drastic.
There is quite a gulf in class. Yeah.
So we know who our number one is for sure. Numbers 2 and 3 aren't so good.
What's the back line looking like?
Backline right now is looking exactly the same as it did last season.
Can't complain about it.
You're good with trotting out Dan Burn at left back? You don't want any upgrades there?
I think that's the one position that needs strength. And if I could strengthen any position in the squad, it's left back. Love Dan Burn, but I think he's a centre back. And he did a great job at left back. Well, Matty Targett was injured. But he's not quick enough for Champions League football. He's not versatile enough. So I think left back is a position they need to sort out. Because I also don't think Matty Targett is a long-term solution to that role. I think they need a Kieran Trippier, but left back.
I was interested in your answer on Schär because he was there before the takeover, and he seems to be fitting in. But is that your center back pairing
Yeah.
Botman and
Yeah.
Shar? You think he's come around? You're not gonna.
He was epic last season. His Botman is the proper defender, and then like no nonsense tackles, puts his head in anywhere. Shar is the playmaker defender. Like he can see a pass. Like some of the assists he got last season were pretty epic. He's a great player with his feet. He's one of the players like Joe Linton, Sean Longstaff that just completely turned their careers around under Eddie Howe. Newcastle signed him for like $3 million, Fabian Schär. So I don't see why they'd move him on or replace him at this point. He's got another season or two in him.
Any quick notes on midfield attack? I assume you're fairly pleased with both those, especially with the signing of Tonali and.
Yep, midfield is stacked. I actually was noting down. We've got, in terms of players we can play in the central area midfield, we got Joe Linton, we got Bruno Guimaraes, we got Tonali, we got Willock, we got Longstaff, we got Elliot Anderson, the youngster coming through, and like that's just for the central midfield area. Some of those can play other positions, but they're all like we've got 6 solid options for centre mid, which is
that's good,
great. And then in terms of wingers and attack, Saint-Maximin, assuming he leaves, let's assume he leaves. So other than that, we've got Anthony Gordon, who I'm really excited for this upcoming season. Jacob Murphy, Almiron, Barnes, if he joins, he'll be on the wing, and then Isak can also play on the wing if Wilson's through the middle.
Almiron kind of fell off a bit second half of last year. Like after the World Cup, he wasn't quite the same player, but
wasn't he injured though? I think it comes back to injury.
I was surprised.
He didn't have anything significant.
I was surprised that among the players you mentioned that turned their careers around, you didn't mention Almiron.
So last season, first half of the season, he was on fire. He couldn't stop scoring.
He was maybe the best player in the league.
Yeah, on form, he won Player of the Month. I know he got Goal of the Month as well for his volley against Fulham. I think that was October. He had a run of 10, 12 games where he couldn't stop scoring. And then second half of the season, it really dried up. I think he only got 2 or 3 goals, something like that. In the back half of the season, he's a very frustrating player at times. Almiron, he's still. I think if you could ask Newcastle fans, the majority would say they'd rather sell him than Saint-Maximin.
Interesting.
Wow. Especially like based on last season. It's interesting.
Saint-Maximin was injured a lot. He probably only played half the games or got half the minutes because he was out a lot. But when he's on form, he's just unplayable. Yeah, whereas Almiron's not that player that puts you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
Almiron gets you out of your seat because he does something fantastic. Like it's kind of unexpected. It's it's spectacular, I would say. Alan Saint-Maximin is full energy at all times and has you at the edge of your seat ready, So
yeah, he can be very frustrating though. He tries one too many tricks and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
I think that's why he's inconsistent. But.
So wrapping all this up, like when you think about Newcastle, and you think about potential transfers coming in, how you guys have been playing football last year, how you expect to play football next year. What are your you don't have to I'm not going to hold you to this next May, but what are your expectations as of right now on July 19th? What are your expectations right now for Newcastle for next year?
I expect Newcastle to finish in the top 6.
Okay.
I think that's if Newcastle can finish 6th, that will be seen as a strong season. I wouldn't see that as falling as like a decline from last season. I really wouldn't, because I think teams, Arsenal are stronger. I think Chelsea are going to be way better than 12th, maybe. Liverpool should be better than 5th.
Tottenham should be better.
I don't know about that. But
okay.
I'm kidding. But no, I think if Newcastle finish 6th, that would be seen as a strong season. I'd love to see Newcastle also get out the group stage of the Champions League as well.
Well, yeah. So what about the cups? So you want to get out of the groups in the Champions League. I mean, and that's going to be really dependent on the group you get. Newcastle have a horrendous coefficient. So I think you guys are in pot 4, if I'm not mistaken. So like you guys could get a terrible draw.
We could get Bayern Munich, and I think Barcelona maybe pot 2, or one of those huge teams are in pot 2. We could get AC Milan. We could get a horrific draw. But we could get one that's not too bad. But even if we got a horrific draw, I would back us to get a couple of results at St James's Park.
You kind of hope that you draw Sevilla, because Sevilla is going to be in the in pot A, and so but it's the Champions League. It's Sevilla and the Champions League. And that's their pushovers in the Champions League. When they fall down to the Europa League, it's different gravy. But in the Champions League, that's who you want.
But part of me would want them. Part of me would want them to get one of those giants, like a Bayern Munich or a Barcelona.
It would be more fun. FA Cup, Carabao Cup. I mean, obviously, it would be nice to bag one of them, if possible.
Of course, It'd be. I think silverware will be a huge priority. And I think the best chance of that is one of those two.
Yeah.
So another substantial cup run or lifting the trophy would be epic.
Would you sacrifice league position for an FA Cup would you sacrifice? Yes, obviously. I think most people who haven't had a trophy in a while would sacrifice the league position for an FA Cup. What about a League Cup?
Yeah.
Any silverware?
Are we talking?
10th.
So Newcastle finished 10th and win the League Cup.
Win the League Cup. Well, see, the thing is, if you win the League Cup, you get the Conference League, right? So you still get Europe for the next year. If you win the FA Cup, you get Europa.
Yeah, that's a hard one, actually. I don't know that.
I think now that they tie European football to winning one of those competitions, I think it makes it a lot more palatable to win one and like sacrifice league position. Because your point earlier was 6th, and finishing 6th would be exciting. That would put you in the Europa League, so that's already Thursday night football. So like, say you slip to 9th and you win the League Cup, that's still Thursday night football in the Conference League. So it's European football. It's not Europa League, but it's Conference League. But like, I mean, it's still a major European competition, and you've won a trophy. I feel like that's, if for a club in Newcastle's position, and I don't mean that like I don't mean like historically, but like where you guys have been over the last 30 years. I think that would be.
Yeah, it's hard because we're way further ahead than we thought we'd be at this point. And now we've got Champions League football. We don't really want to give it up. I know I said I'd take 6th, but that's just because I think the competition's so much harder.
Yeah.
With the Premier League, that is. But if you'd asked me this time last year, would I take 9th in the Carabao Cup? I'd snatch your hand off.
Yeah.
But now we got 4th and no trophy. It's like, I don't want to give up on that. I don't know. That's a hard one. Part of me would love a Champions League quarterfinal, semi-final run over a.
Yeah,
and then finish 9th or something. Like
that might be more exciting.
That would be so exciting.
Yeah. All right. Well, let us know in the comments if you are a Newcastle supporter or if you a Premier League follower and you have thoughts about Newcastle, what your expectations for Newcastle are next year. I'd love to hear from you guys. I know Joel will be active in those comments and responding to you guys if you have any thoughts for him specifically. If you want to talk to him directly, you can do that on our Discord server. We have a Red Card Radio Discord server where we chat a little bit there, all kinds of stuff. We have some off-topic stuff as well, like chess and Formula One and whatnot. But you can find that in the description of this video or the podcast. You can find us all on Twitter. That guy who is making terrible arguments about Saudi Arabia is at KS Brad G. Down below me directly is at Whiteheart_Sean. I'm at James Tiffany. You can find Joel. He's at Joel Finley 16 on Twitter. Right. I will always remember that. So
you go.
Hey, collectively we can all be reached at redcard_radio on Twitter. And Brad, is this the part where you announce something?
We are now on Instagram at the same handle, redcard_radio. Follow us on Instagram. We'll be doing some posts there. I don't know, maybe some giveaways. I don't know. We're gonna play with it and see what kind of happens.
We'll have to give a raise to our social media intern, right, Sean? All right, we're getting out of here. Check back with us next week. We will be doing another one. It might be even bigger than this week, but check back. We will see you guys soon. Have a good one.